I think the thing that's really important is Frankie. I would do the same as well, honestly, because this is as important this one is.
Yeah,
I always like to point out that you know, no matter what he's done in his past, Colonel made some good chicken. Okay,
damn straight,
and I
damn
don't know what
straight.
I'm talking about. That was our segue into whatever is going to happen tonight. What's up, Cam? Hey guys, how you doing out there? Miguel Rodriguez here for the Bakersfield Gentlemen on this Tuesday night. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Not our usual day, but we had a special guest on that hopefully we'll get to talk to in person very soon.
It just went from bright behind us
That's
to dark in like 2 seconds.
what you want.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Like the
Colors
sun
to change.
literally just went down.
It's going down.
But the picture doesn't look bad. They got the lights from the phones and
No,
the
not at all.
iPad going, so I think we're gonna
Not
be all
bad. You
right.
got this light over here a
Yeah,
bit, so it's all good. I think we'll be
I honestly thought
fine.
you're gonna put us closer to the door.
Oh, I liked this behind us
Yeah,
and,
no, it looks good. It looks good.
away from the set because also Bible study tonight, guys.
Yeah,
We
I totally forgot about that, so that was my fault. I thought we'd have plenty of times they don't start till 7. But I was like, well, they do get here before that, and sometimes they like to play pool, which is where we set up. So we went
That's
ahead
not
and just
bueno.
set up outside. A little cool, but it's not too bad.
I actually feel great right now.
John,
I
how
think
you doing?
this is the weather I like. Look at this guy. Good to see you, brother. I'm just gonna hit my share buttons real quick. I apologize. I'm looking down too much, guys, but I do me a favor, guys. If you have a buddy who likes to hear about new cigars, tag them for me. All right, get them in that comment section because they're gonna want to hear about this. We have something very special and something very new
Mm-hmm.
to the market and to you folks out there, and hopefully this will entice you into adding a little something to your rotation.
Yeah, and while we're waiting for our guests to pop in, talk real quick about this past weekend. Um,
It's a busy one.
for those of you that were awake at the time or maybe watched the replay, it was the Elimination Chamber for WWE.
Ah,
Um, honestly, I thought it was decent. I thought the women's match was really good. I was fine with the way it ended, but they had a lot of like jumps off the cages and whatnot, off the pods, which I thought was cool.
as they should.
Liv Morgan looked amazing, so that's awesome.
Thank you, John.
And the men's match wasn't too bad. All in all, it was a decent pay per view. Um, yeah, so if you guys caught it, I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did.
All of these pay-per-views be damned because I didn't get a chance to watch it. Which is whatever. But in just a moment,
I just happened to be here like super early in the morning, and I got a notification from Twitter about the pre-show starting. I was like, wait, what? Forgot they were in Australia.
yeah, that's what happened. That's
I
what
was like, oh
happens.
crap! So I went over to Peacock. Like, oh, all right, I'll start watching it now.
I don't want to. I don't want to hear about these wrestling things. I don't get to watch because I'm lazy. All right, I want to hear about cigars, and who better talk than our special guest, brother? Give me a thumbs up when you're ready, because I see you in the waiting wings. All right, there we go. I'm bringing them on screen, guys. I'm not gonna. We're not waiting anymore. All right, right now. Get on the screen.
You know how to work your computer.
Hey guys,
There we
How
go.
you doing?
Hey, gosh,
how you doing?
Doing good, doing good. You can hear us okay?
Yeah, doing fantastic. How's the audio? How's the video?
Both looking good, sounding good.
Perfect.
Fantastic. I know it's a stretch with me on it, but you know.
What are you talking about? I'm glad to see you, brother. How's it? Life been treating you?
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's actually like probably high 30s, maybe low 40s. And I have hair to kind of keep me warm, so gotta wear a puffer.
Fair, very fair.
So, for people who may not be familiar with what you do, can you give yourself a little intro?
Sure. So I am the founder of Somm Cigars. My name is Vlada Stojanov. I've been working with cigars in one way, shape, or form since 09. I've been distributing various brands since 2017, and about a year and a half ago. That sounds about right. I did the first release, which was the Bordeaux or the BDX. All the lines kind of lean heavily on my sommelier background. So all of them will have names that correspond specifically to wine regions or wine styles.
Nice.
In fact, the one I'm smoking is going to be the Connecticut, also known as the Bordeaux Blanc or Bordeaux White. This will launch at PCA, so I'm excited to kind of do this live with you guys. And then the Rioja just launched at TPE. Rioja is made at Eladio Diaz's factory, named after the famous Spanish wine region of Rioja.
Now, like you mentioned, you have so many background. When you're blending your cigars, are you thinking of what wine you're going to pair with it, or is that something that comes after the fact?
Um, yes and no. I blend for complexity. So the one, as you taste through the different blends, you'll see that there's an overarching theme, which is complexity, smooth profiles, and just a ton of flavor. None of them push past medium, whether in terms of body or strength, because personally, that's what I enjoy.
Mhm.
As far as wine pairings, they kind of come as a secondary thing. Of course, I always look into what can enhance the profile, right? What can make it taste better. And with the Rioja one, so the Spanish wine region of Rioja is very, very, very special. Um, it completely does not follow any type of uh, trend, style, none of this. They just make the wines for the sake of making the wines, and they're actually absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the greatest wine regions in Spain, um, and it over delivers on the value portion. You get incredibly complex wines, age anywhere from 2 to 5 years, depending on what it is, typically for not a lot of money. You can find Gran Reserva wine, so a wine that has spent 5 years, a combination of oak aging and in the bottle, for probably sub $50, which is a phenomenal deal. So when I made this blend with Eladio, I kind of wanted to have it over deliver for the price point. The cigars are priced at $13.50 and $14 for 5x50 Robusto is $13.50, and the Toro is $14. They come in beautiful, absolutely beautiful 10-count boxes. The ring is meant to evoke the Gran Reserva wines of Spain. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Um, Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off right there. I thought you were done. And as far as your wine background goes, do you feel that having tasted the complexity of different wines from different regions helped you in your blending? Being
Oh,
able to take
absolutely.
different tobaccos and play with them and see how they taste?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many things transfer from the wine world to the cigar world, right? From the terroir, where it's grown, how is it handled, how is it handled in the field or the vineyard, if we're talking about wines, the fermentation process, the aging, how you treat it, all of it. But really, it helped with. I have a very clear vision of what each of the blends that I made is supposed to feel like, taste like, what kind of an experience. What is it supposed to make you feel when you enjoy one of them? And knock on wood, I think I've done it well with the 3 blends that I had now. So there was the Premier Cru, which is a limited edition, and composing over 50 years worth of aged tobacco. The Bordeaux, which is very interesting because it highlights Honor and Broadleaf. And then again, a Bordeaux is typically a mix of up to 5 grapes, really, if you're doing red Bordeaux. But typically, in the narrowest of scopes, it's Cab and Merlot. Um, the Bordeaux blend uses San Andreas, Viso Jalapa, and then Honduran broadleaf in the filler, plus San Andreas and Viso Jalapa again. So the challenge there was, how do we introduce a new type of tobacco, something that has not been used before, without making it, completely out of left field? So blending it with San Andreas, which we all hopefully love and enjoy, and then Viso Jalapa to give it the sweetness. It was very approachable because, again, it's familiar, but also very different. This beautiful cereal grain sweetness flows throughout. There's, I know you guys like bourbon, so I'll call it what it is. It's like almost like a bourbon mash, like the cereal sweetness that you get in bourbon.
Nice.
And then obviously a ton of this. We don't really talk about fruit flavors in wine. In cigars as often, but this does have an incredible sweetness, underlying tone of sweetness that reminds of raisins and like dark plum jam, literally like super jammy, which is not something we really talk about in cigars, but it has a beautiful undertone.
But I do love you bringing that into it too, because I think the flavor wheel is obviously going to be much different from cigars to wine. They're not going to completely overlap by any means, but the fact that you can differentiate the fruits, which is a very important thing, because sweet in cigars is not just one note of sweet though. You know, you have your honey sweet, that jamminess, to a citrus sweet, which there are not very often, but quite, enjoyable
Mhm.
in cigars. And I love that you brought that into the forefront right there, and how you described it. Something that is unique and not used, but not completely out of left field. How difficult was that to achieve that balance of something unique and still something that feels familiar enough to want to come back to?
Um, I nailed it on the first try.
Yeah.
Seriously, no, that wasn't like all right, like savant level. No, seriously, we sat, and you guys know Brian from Cavalier. He's a dear friend and again partner in FCT and Cavalier. FCT is the factory in Honduras. In fact, I have pictures. I'll show you guys. PCA.
Heck yeah.
We're literally sitting at the kitchen table, the blending station, as we like to call it. But I've literally smoked about 12, 13 different tobaccos that I had on hand. And, I'm a little bit of a nerd, so I took notes about everything. And again, very simplistic. I didn't go into super, super deep dive into it. It was, main flavor profile points, the strength, the body, and the flavor. And I'll dive into the differences between those. But literally after smoking, I went through the notes and said, hey, you know what? Let me put this together. So I made the most embarrassing roll of all time. If you've ever had, if you like Middle Eastern food and you've ever had a dolma, which is a rolled, grape stuffed grape leaves,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it resembled that. It was
Yeah.
terrible. The draw was super open. I gotta pat myself on the back for that one. But I took a couple of puffs, passed it to Brian. He took a couple of puffs and he goes, I think you got something there. And I'm like, yeah, I think so too. So we got the pros to roll it, sent it out to the floor, made 5 samples, had Sebastian, myself, Brian, Jack, and Raul, the master blender of the factory, try it. And, everybody was like, this is good. I'm like, great, let's put it into production. And that was it. Just having the chance to try all of these, this was a little bit more, not a little, I mean, a little bit more. It was about 3 times as difficult, meaning that I knew where I wanted to get on the third try. So having smoked all of these components, I came up with an initial idea, and it literally came down to whether or not I'm going to use a quarter leaf of piloto or a half leaf. That's literally what it came down to. Ultimately, well, you guys will get a chance to try it. There's a box pressed version of this that is event only that ended up being with a half leaf of piloto. The actual blend has only a quarter leaf. It's Connecticut on the outside, and then a couple other things. Just very, very approachable. Tons of, you mentioned sweetness and the different variations of it earlier. This has beautiful, like vanilla-like sweetness and creaminess to it. But there's also an underlying sweetness, almost like oak or cedar, that just flows through it. It's not overpowering. It's just there in the background. But when you do take a puff, you get a ton of roasted almonds. Actually, kind of reminds of marzipan, right? Which is just almonds and sugar. So a ton of different variations on sweetness. It's not sugar watery sweet. That kind of, so this took about 3 or 4 tries. I know how much I like that half leaf more. However, it pushed the body up. And this is a light to medium cigar. It placed it firmly into a medium bodied cigar, which is what I didn't want to do.
Fair.
But I knew that it was really, really good. So I made that as an event only. I've only made 1,000 of them, and they're box press. Box pressing also changes the profile a little bit. So
true.
very interesting in my opinion. But you guys will get a chance to try it.
I love that. That's the best news I've heard all day.
And then I did mention body, flavor, and strength, and I'll just touch upon it a little bit if you want. We can expand on it, but
Please.
flavor is how clear and apparent the flavors are, as well as let's use a scale of 1 to 5. So this is very clear. All the blends are very clear. They start right off the bat. There's no foreplay to them. They just start. right off the bat. The moment you light it, you get a full impact of the flavor profile. And it's very clean, owing to the aged tobacco. All the blends use tobacco between 3 to 5 years for the fillers. Very clean, very precise. You can easily differentiate what it is. And even if you're struggling to differentiate what it is, you can recognize the quality. Now, body is the actual, it's part of the tasting, right? You perceive it on your palate. And the easiest way to describe it is the impact of the smoke on your palate. Think of it as weight, right? And if we want to make, kind of circle it back to the wine portion, a light cigar would be, a light wine would be kind of like water and going all the way to full milk, right? So light to medium would be 1%, or maybe, I don't know, almond or oat milk, and then it expands from there. And then strength is the impact of nicotine on you, right? How apparent that nicotine is. Now, I gotta hedge this a little bit, because as you enjoy more cigars, you build tolerance. So as if you smoke, and again, I hope you guys don't mind me mentioning other brands here, but if your daily first, morning cigar is going to be an LFD Digger, this is going to be probably as light as a Macanudo. Most of the stuff I make is probably going to be, super light in terms of strength, just because you built up tolerance. And again, this is just something that someone who doesn't enjoy cigars often or at all, maybe if you give him a medium bodied cigar for every medium strength cigar, rather, he might perceive it as super full. Mm-hmm. Oh, and there's an easy trick, by the way. If you're watching this at home and you're enjoying a cigar, you ever feel lightheaded, have a little bit of sugar, and it'll basically even you out and bring you back, to normal within probably 30 to 40 seconds. I always suggest a soda, because that starts, your body starts breaking it down basically the moment you take a sip. So nicotine's an alkaloid, carbs just counteract it super easily. So that's an easy little trick.
It's a great piece of advice to keep on hand too. And before we go too far away from the question I had, because it's an important one. How much is it going to take to get you to roll a box of 10 yourself? Then I want to see that. I want to see that.
Nobody wants to see that.
I don't know about that. I think we might have just found a good little fundraiser for like a charity or something. Like, these are plaid rolls.
You know what? I'm happy to. I'll happily do it next time I go to the factory. It literally was like embarrassing. I'll show pictures. In fact, I don't know if it'll come up with a next question. I'll look over my phone and maybe it can actually translate. Oh, yeah. I did saw a couple of comments, and it is, the pairing is subjective. One of the things that, and I'll always go back to a wine example here. So something that you shouldn't really pair, because there's a physiological reason, there's a chemical reason why you shouldn't pair a high tannin wine with fish, primarily because you'll get this relatively metallic taste underneath, and it's not really, it just doesn't work as well. That being said, I've served personally. I've had many people enjoy, a massive over oaked, super tannic cab with a beautiful, swordfish or something. And it shouldn't work, but people enjoy it. So pairing is completely subjective in that situation. As long as you enjoy it, more power to you. And then Jeff, I see you're drinking Tempranillo. That's really, really good, brother. Here. I'll find something for you guys.
I also like that Jeff likes to steal the sugar packets from restaurants.
I did see that.
Yeah, and Miguel, I'm with you, brother. Those diggers are pretty hefty right there. Mm-hmm. Not gonna lie, the root beer will be flowing for me as well. And I do appreciate though, like with your background and my wanting to learn more about wine, that's when I think pairing is most helpful, when you have those suggestions, because as a novice to that part, I would love that information, like you just told me. I don't think I would want that metallic aftertones. So it's nice to have as much. Yeah, I find something that pairs really well for me, and it might just be personal preference. those who know can help you out quite a bit just to get your foot in the door, and then take their advice to your own personal level, and then go from there, guys. It's the subjective part is wonderful, but those building blocks and the base information is extremely helpful for them.
Knowledge is power. Anyway, I don't know if this will translate, but I'll do my best.
Oh, that looks like a winner to me. I don't know. I don't know.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I might order as a photo and do a couple of signed.
I love
It's
that
just
idea.
absolutely like it just I'm embarrassed like how bad that was. And to make it even worse, I haven't really gotten any better at it.
At least you can admit it. That's all that matters. The honesty. And then I'm going to bring Jeff's comment onto screen real quick because it's a little bit longer. I will say I'm a big wine drinker. I have 170 bottle wine fridge, and I do not care that much for Jimmy wines, but they are very good with cigars.
What is it?
Can you expand on Jimmy wines, or am I? Oh, Jammy.
Okay. Jammy wines. Yeah. Okay. It was just
like, why is Jimmy getting flamed here? What did the guy do?
Well, Jimmy Dean went into the wine business. I don't know.
I know. I was like, what's going on here? That's fair. Jeff, I mean, jamminess can definitely. All right, I got to take a step back and kind of get on my little soapbox. So, there's two big schools of thought when you're pairing wines, right? One is complementary, meaning that you double down and highlight what's already present in whatever you're pairing with. The other thing is contrasting. So, an example of a contrasting pairing that all of you have done in your life. Peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Right? That's a classic example of a contrasting pairing, right? You have a super heavy peanut butter that is, full-bodied versus jam that's going to give you acidity, sugar. It complements everything that's not found in the peanut butter, and it overall creates an incredible pairing. Now, you can also double down, right? You have a heavy cigar, heavy both in terms of body, heavy both in terms of nicotine strength, full flavor, and you go for a barrel-proof bourbon, for example, right? So you're going, and again, by the way, an incredibly well done barrel-proof bourbon is probably one of my favorite things, just because the amount of skill skill is actually the best way to put it. To bottle something that's at 50-60% alcohol, so 100 plus proof, that tastes incredibly balanced, that's a level of skill that I would love to achieve at some point. That is just something completely next level.
Could not agree more.
Then as far as wines, wine pairings in general, sparkling wines are an incredible pairing partner. So if you ever Gruet, Gruet from New Mexico, traditional sparkling method style. You can find it in Total Wine in your local wine shop for sub $20 across the board. Prosecco, Spanish Cava, a host of American sparkling wines. Champagne, if you wanna drop some serious dough on it, absolutely incredible for a couple of reasons. Most of them will have a little bit of leftover sugar, right? Bringing us back to that, the nicotine portion of it. And the other thing is most of the stuff for sparkling wine doesn't really go past medium. And when pairing, it's important to keep in mind that you don't want to overwhelm whatever you're pairing with, unless you're trying to highlight the other thing, right? In this case, if you're trying to highlight the cigar, you want whatever you're pairing it with to be a backup dancer to your Beyonce, right? Because if you have two Beyoncés on the stage, A, that'd be impressive, and B, they might fight a little bit. Like they might be trying, who's going to get more attention. Wines that typically are very food-friendly wines work incredibly well with cigars. Orange wines, for example, stuff from Slovenia, stuff from Croatia, even Northeast Italy, right? The skin contact Pinot Grigios, they might not be incredibly enjoyable on their own, depending on, whether or not you like the style. I personally do. But they work incredibly well with cigars. Any of the fortified wines, right? port, Madeira, Marsala, and sherry, right? All of those work incredibly well, primarily because, again, a lot of them have leftover sugar. A lot of them have a nutty profile overall. Think of your ports. Graham's 20 is probably your best catch-all across the board. Hey, Tom.
Right, Tom. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you real quick.
Yep.
When you brought up port, a fortified wine, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Sorry, the geekiness came out, and I'm like, oh yeah, like this is just
Everybody knows.
fortified wines. Fortified wines refer to wines that typically have alcohol added, neutral grape spirit. So typically, to put it the easiest way, think of your grappa's not a good comparison because it's made from must, but think of your let's use that. Basically, grape vodka. Let's just call it that. But what you do is you add it either during fermentation or after fermentation. If it's added during fermentation, you stop the fermentation process. Fermentation is in wine terms, right? I'm not talking about fermentation that happens in cigars because that's a different thing. Fermentation is the conversion of sugar. Basically, yeast eats wine with a shot.
Yeah, I like that.
That's the one. Essentially, that's what happens. So the alcohol does a couple of things. One, it stops the fermentation, meaning that the yeasts that are converting the sugar can't survive anymore. It basically creates a toxic environment. Kind of like think about that job you walked out, basically creates that.
Excellent.
Yeah. So typically you'll have leftover sugar in most of those fortified wines. It also acts as a preservative. Right. So one of the things when you're trying to age wines for a long time, you either need high acidity, high sugar, high tannin, high alcohol. And those are typically the four big things. It gives it endurance to go for the long haul. Because when you're aging wine, what really happens is, sorry, you asked about fortified wines and how it kind of really, the fortified wines, typically, if you add it after fermentation, it's kind of meant to act as a preservative, right? Nothing can develop in it. You can't experience any more bacterial spoilage for one simple reason. Nothing can survive in it. That's kind of why you're how drastic does that change the flavor? Not really. Hence why they use a neutral grape spirit. So typically it's extremely, yes, brandy as well. So brandy is brandy is typically a fruit based spirit, right? And brandy, while we typically think of it as grape brandy, right? Think of your cognacs, armagnacs, etc. Right. The more east you go in the world, the more you get the fruit brandies, right? Your apricots, your pears, your plums. We serve to make Shivovitsa, which is a plum-based brandy, typically aged in oak. Anywhere from 3 to 30 years, depending on what you want to do.
Now, when you get to that point, then since that is a fruit-based alcohol instead of a neutral, like you said, a grape vodka, in layman's terms, that will affect the flavor, then, won't it? In that moment?
Yeah, typically when you use those neutral grape spirits, typically they're distilled to a point. Well, they'll add, mind you, we're not adding 40% or 80 proof into it. It raises the overall alcohol percentage of the wine by anywhere from 2 to 3, maybe 4%, depending on how it is. So most of your fortified wines are going to live in this 16.5 to 19, maybe 20. I can't remember if I've ever seen one that's 20, but like 16.5 to 19 is typically where it'll live. Now, that's not just from the addition of the grape spirit, right? Like you have a ton of leftover sugar that, as it ferments, at some point the yeast just gets to a point where they've created enough sugar and enough alcohol that it becomes toxic for them and they die off. So at that point, you can fortify it after the fermentation.
Oh, so there's a 20 out. There's a 20 out there.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff is saying, okay, very nice. I'm okay with that. I'm
I'm
not
sure
saying that
there
I'm
is.
looking for
I just don't remember ever seeing it. I'm sure there is, and I'd assume it was probably either a Marsala or a Sherry. Miguelas. No, they're not. They so the wines, the names kind of give you an idea of what they'll pair with well. The Bordeaux, obviously, with almost any red blend, whether Cabernet or Merlot based, which, we're lucky enough that probably makes, I don't know, 40, 50%
I was like, it's
of
gonna
the
be a good
market.
number.
Literally throw a dart, and there's a good chance you'll hit a Cab or a Merlot or a blend. And then Rioja pairs incredibly well with Tempranillo. I kind of had an idea of naming it after that, but I really, dialed in the blend, smoked it on my patio here with a beautiful glass of Viña Tondoña Reserva, which is Tempranillo from one of the most, iconic producers. They've been doing it since, I want to say, 1870s, maybe earlier.
Wow.
Very
So
nice.
they've been doing it for a while, maybe even more actually, maybe
I think
1780s.
that's an interesting topic on its own. Just the history of the companies and the families that go into all of these luxury products that, it's on your shelf, and I know we all appreciate it to a certain. I don't even know if we appreciate it enough sometimes. The dedication that goes in to, like you were talking earlier about bourbons, and the skill it goes into creating something with such a high proof and still balanced and still flavorful and delicious. It's so daunting to think about that, and so fascinating at the same time to go into the history of how they got to be what they are. And then that we have to have you back on just for. I would like to geek out more on that subject
100%.
alone if you're ever up for it.
I'd love to do it too. I mean, the bourbon side of it is incredibly interesting. I've done. It is. So if you zoom out a little bit, tequila is Mexico is incredibly proud of the tequila, correct?
Oh yeah,
It is also one of the most controlled spirits in the world, if not the most controlled, in terms of how rigorous it is, the categorization, the control, everything.
oh yeah.
I would put bourbon and Scotch probably after. Bourbon is kind of, it is protected by an act of Congress, meaning that it was impactful enough that the government stepped in and said, this is of national importance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's protected by that. And Scotch would probably be pretty high up there. And then I would probably put cognac. Those would probably be kind of the top, 4 or 5 things in the world from a spirits perspective, in terms of like how controlled and how controlled and protected they are.
What do you call it? And that's fascinating on its own. Yeah, the history of the laws, the governing bodies that go behind these things. Looking up, as you said, for tequila, look up the nom number, and you know exactly where you're getting it from, who the distillers are, the families that go behind it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no, this is way off topic. I'll go into that some other time. We'll talk about it. Back to the cigars for a moment. Back to Somm. When you first saw this opportunity, and you started going into this, and as you said, obviously think of the names, they have certain pairings and whatnot. And I'm kind of stealing one of Frankie's questions here. Is there a certain order that you would pick for people to try your cigars in? If you could tell them, hey, this is number 1, 2, and 3 to start your palate from beginning of day to end of day.
Yeah, 100%. I've smoked an embarrassing amount of the Rioja Robustos.
Heck yeah.
I've probably gone through 70 of them, maybe, if not more, since the start of the year. And I look for this in cigars, and I don't know if I'm going to do it justice, in the way that I'm gonna explain this. When you find a cigar that it's just good from start to finish, and it gives you you can get as much out of it, depending on how much you devote yourself to it. So I remember it was a stressful day. It was like a week before TP. I'm trying to organize a bunch of stuff. The shipment from Honduras is late. Like, I won't have the Corona Gordas to show. Right. I have no more hair left to lose. So it's like, it is what it is. I'm on my third or fourth cigar that day. and pardon me just a second. They were doing trash pickup. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be an interesting part of the podcast. So as I'm on that like third or fourth cigar throughout the day, and I'm kind of stressing, right? Like I'm kind of smoking a cigar without really paying a lot of attention. I lean back, and I was actually in this very chair, and I lean back and I go, do a big exhale, and then take a puff and actually pay attention, and just get hit with so much complexity. And it just felt like a hug on a warm winter day, on a cold winter day. Sorry, like a warm hug on a cold winter day. And it was just like, everything's going to be okay. Everything's great. Like, by the way, dinner's like exceptional and waiting for you. And I'm like, oh, great. So I would suggest the Rioja Robusto for sure to start. The Toro, I like to look at a brand's offering as a menu, right? So depending on your mood, you'll pick up, maybe you want to do jalapeno poppers, or maybe you want to go for foie gras. Really depends on how you're feeling that day. Also, that'd be kind of a weird restaurant, but I'd love to see it.
Combine them, put them together somehow.
Yeah, fusion, high and low. So if you do try something from a brand and it doesn't really fit your palate, try the rest of the stuff. I try not to get stuck in palate blindness. What that means, I don't just smoke my stuff. I smoke almost everything under the sun. Anytime something new and interesting comes out, I try to try it. I try to give it a taste, both from a market research standpoint, right? From like, hey, what are other people doing? And then from an actual like innovation, maybe is not the right word, but I like seeing what other people are doing. For example, I admire what JC Newman did with the American. And I have a very, very soft spot for that cigar. I think it's incredible. I think it's probably the best cigar, one of my favorites. Let me rephrase. I think it's the best cigar they make for me. More importantly, when I got my citizenship, the first cigar I smoked was an all-American cigar, right? The actual story behind an incredibly successful 100-plus-year-old company at this point, to make a product completely in the United States, all the way down to the cello and the hinges and everything else. I think the story from that perspective, and the innovation, if you will, is incredible. The Yagua is also really, really interesting. I like what Plasencia has done with the Hexagon, for example.
Oh, yeah.
What else? Right, the use of FSG tobacco is interesting. So, all of these things are very, very interesting, and always getting a chance to try them. I think, I try not to fall into a rut of just smoking the same things all the time, which I think is important if you want to expand your palate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. There was oh gosh, what was it called? From it's it's called On Writing. Yeah, On Writing by Stephen King, when he talks about tips and tricks of the trades for that, and he goes into the fact that he goes into about 80 to 90 books a year that he reads from other people, because a little different in writing. Obviously, you're not just going to read your own stuff over and over again, but
He's not even just Daniel Steele fan.
I know I am Daniel Steele, and oh gosh, what's the other girl's name? Nora Roberts, and
my mom,
Twilight. It's a lot of Twilight from
our mom is a huge Daniel Steele fan. I mean, she's got every book that lady's ever written. That lady writes a book a month or something. But last year I got her autograph, so she loved that.
Yeah, 100%. Daniel Steele. I know Daniel Steele fairly well now at this point. So I can't say too much. But the point I'm making though is that explore everything, because it's gonna benefit you in the long run, whether or not you are looking for inspiration or just something to enjoy. Why not? I love that smoke everything. Enjoy
absolutely
across the board.
Absolutely. And then once again, the Toro is the Toro out of the Rioja line probably is. So there's a difference between the two sizes in the way the profile shows off. So the Rioja Robusta is primarily a combination of creaminess, cedar, oak, vanilla, and then roasted nuts, walnuts, almonds on the front palate. And then as you move towards the second third, about halfway through the cigar, you get a lot more presence of the baking spices. So the cinnamon, the nutmeg, the star anise and clove are the two, or star anise is actually the one that really shines through, because not only does it give you that, baking spice profile, but it also, I don't want to call it acidity, but freshness, like literal freshness on the palate, and it shows off very, very well. And then it morphs back into sweetness and creaminess, and everything else kind of tapers off in the last third. The Toro is different. So the Toro goes spiciness up front, baking spices, creaminess in the middle, and then baking spices in the second third. So I would do the Rioja Robusto first, then I would follow up with the Rioja Toro. I'd probably have lunch at that point, and then I would do the BDX Corona Gorda, which is a limited production. I made this for my birthday last year, and then I made a small number. I think it was like 2,500 cigars. No, 2,600 cigars, because my birthday was yesterday, February 26th. So I'm like, all right, this kind of makes sense. We'll do 2,600 of them. So I would do that. Thanks. Huh? Sorry, did you say which birthday?
Happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you. So I will go with that, and I would probably follow up with the BDX Toro, and then I would end up with the 6x60 box press. So
Very
all
nice.
of the sizes, the blend is adjusted to size, and the 6x60 actually has a little bit of extra Honduran broadleaf in there. So all that sweetness is just amplified in that size. And I also had to kind of compromise with myself. I don't enjoy big ring gauges. I very rarely smoke 6x60s. So I made a 6x60 box press, and luckily Cavalier is an exceptionally well versed with that, especially their factory. So the box press is amazing. And funnily enough, that was the best selling size when it originally released. I should have made more. I just made the same amount of everything, except the 6x60s basically sold out overnight.
Oh, that's some good
So,
market research right there, though. Tells you exactly what they want.
Yeah. Rather than me telling people what they should do, I tend to listen and adjust. So I think that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And especially if it's something that you can also enjoy, because I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think, and I think this goes for most manufacturers, you're not going to want to sell something that you're not going to want to smoke yourself at some point.
Correct.
And I have to agree. Yeah, the bigger ring gauges aren't usually my thing, but when it's good, it's great. It's absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait to try it out.
The Davidoff Gusto, that's the one that I wanted to hate it in that 6x60, and I smoked it, and I thought it was honestly the best tasting out of the other sizes. I really wanted to dislike it. Like, I came with a preconceived notion as I'm smoking about a third in, and I'm like, I hate to admit, but this one's actually better.
Good stuff. Yeah. There's always those moments right there. So even if you have your prejudice going in, something that good just makes it wash away and real easy. Just nah, I was wrong. Yep. This is good.
Oof, this is delicious, by the way. I can't wait for you guys to try this. This is just light to medium, beautifully complex, creaminess, tons of sweetness. It's like an oatmeal cookie with vanilla and milk chocolate. It's just enough presence on the palate, and again, very, very much on the lighter side.
Love that.
And again, it'll come in a 6, so 3 classic sizes. Corona Gorda, that's made for me, really, and the other people who enjoy smaller ring gauges. 5.5 by 52 Robusto, and a 6.5 by 54. I was a little hesitant to make that size. And we made it in 3 different sizes, actually. I did 6.5 by 50, 6.5 by 52, and 6.5 by 54. Ultimately, 54 just overshadowed how all 3 of them, and there was really, really much. The blend showed much, much better. And I wish I could tell you why. Like, I wish I could really break down. If someone could actually break down the science behind it, I would love to see it. I'm sure there's some savant out there who can tell me exactly why. But
for sure. But
so
I do. Oh, sorry. Continue, please.
Right, go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
I do appreciate the idea. I love that you did try it in different sizes
Mhm.
because sometimes, like a good work of art or music or something that you just, for some reason, a certain note or a certain new color to it just improves everything or just elevates it just a little bit above the rest. And quantifying it is great, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be if it's great, you know?
It's got to be by feel, right? It just
Yeah.
so
And
I
and like you're
then I
saying,
kind of
this
went on the
silver ring. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
so then I kind of went on the other end, and I'm like, all right, I like this profile, but I want to see if it's simple and it does it actually get boring. So we rolled 10 of them that day, and I smoked 8 of those 6.5 by 54s. I ultimately gave up around, I want to say like 10 something, and I didn't give up because I got bored of smoking it. I gave up because we lost, I think, 8 or 9 domino games in a row. And I was like, all right, no more cigars. That's it. Like, I'm good. But I
Sure.
really wanted to see it. At no point did I actually get bored. At no point was it cloying on the palate. It was just clean. And again, keep in mind, this is freshly rolled. So add another 6 months of resting, which it will be, right? Because this was rolled in November. So by the time I release it in April, okay, so 5.5 months. I don't want to be non-transparent and say it's, oh, we're rounding up. It's going to be 5.5 months, but
Right.
right.
That worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, very, very, very excited about this. It's clean, and every time I went back to it, there was something more to discover. Um, got this beautiful like graham cracker undertone underneath that just gives you sweetness. I'm very excited for this.
I'm excited
Yeah.
as well for it. I cannot wait to get my hands on some. It's going to be a good time in Vegas. I am so sorry we didn't see you at TPE, but from your experience of the launch, is there anything coming up that you're excited for? Like, you have PCA or PCA coming up. You're going to
Mhm.
be launching some stuff there as well. Is the future? And I don't want you to, if you don't want to say anything past that right now, I understand. But is there anything on the next as far as maybe a unique size continuation, or is there another
um,
blend that you might be working on?
Blend, yes. For the unique size, I think what I've done with the Corona Gorda, I'm going to keep doing that every year. So I think the next step is going to be I'm going to make the Rioja blend in Lancero. In
Nice.
fact, the factory's already making that. So next time I have a shipment coming in, which should be a month, well, maybe just after PCA, there'll be some Lancero samples as well. So I think I'll make that for the following year. The idea would be every year I would do a size that's not available in the regular production blends. I think I'll do that. I might make the box press, which already exists, and again, adjusted blend in a box press size. I really think it's phenomenal. So I'll probably make that a slightly wider release the
Nice.
following year. For summer, I have a limited edition blend coming out of El Titan. I am 99% there on it.
Hmm.
So it'll be a small run, probably under a couple of thousand cigars. A little bit of a different. That is going to be on the fuller end of the spectrum because again, I
Okay.
realize that there's a hole in the portfolio, right? But also the blend is incredible, and I don't think it fits the regular production blends or what I need in the blends. But it's an exceptional blend, and I'm looking forward to launching it probably mid to late summer.
Okay.
Um, and it's going to be probably 6.5 by 52 or 54. I'm down to like when I said I'm 99% there. I got samples of both, and I just have to, hate this. So far, the 54 is winning by a small margin.
Real quick, Miguel's asking in the comments. He's heard good things. He's wondering, where can he find your cigars?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you can look it up on the website on sommcigars.com. I'm adding stores. I still haven't added all of them, but there's a good chunk of them present. If you tell me where you are, you can also look them up online. There's a couple of big retailers that have them, right? If you're California, you have Small Batch. Arizona, you have Luxury. You can look into HCL Deals, which is the Humidor of Lyle location. Matador, I believe, as well. And, that just kind of comes off the top of my head. But easily reference the website. There's plenty of stuff locally. And if not, ask your local retailer. I'm sure there's only 50 stores that'll be open this year. So there's PCA is going to have 8 or 9 slots that's going to fill. And once that's done, that's it. And then you'll just get to enjoy seeing me in person all around the country.
Nothing wrong with that. And I like the exclusivity there, especially, there's the scattershot approach of like being everywhere all at once. I totally understand that. But at the same time, that personal feel of these are the lounges that I want to be a part of. Is there any criteria or suggested retailer you want to be with? Is there, like a litmus test, I guess, that you go for?
There's got to be long-term alignment. That's really, they got to be in it for the long term, and they got to recognize that I'm in it for the long term. I'm not, again, I do a lot of things that are either people think it's going against the grain. So most of my events they're not sales events. They're experience driven. I've really done I've done 16 events since the start of the year. So we're now what, 27th? Yeah. And I'm doing 3 more this week. All of those events are pairing and tasting educational events with a very low buy-in, and primarily it is it's focused on education.
Nice.
That's really it. And it's experience driven. In January, because I assumed a lot of people are doing dry January, we did a number of non-alcoholic pairing events. We did one in December as well. In fact, this week I'll do a combination of, again, alcohol and non-alcoholic versions. One of the more interesting ones, and one I truly enjoyed, was doing Lagavulin. So Lagavulin 16, right? You get the peatiness and the smokiness in it. And I paired that for everybody who doesn't drink. I did that with a Lapsang Souchong tea. Smoked tea, and it's a kind of choose your own adventure, where depending on how long you steep it, your smokiness can go anywhere from, something very, very light, think like Johnny Black Label, all the way to like an Ardbeg. So depending on how long you steep it, it also, right, as you steep it, the tea elevates in terms of tannin, so it changes the body perception, as well as, the bite, the astringency, if you will, that you experience. That also means that it can take on a fuller cigar. But if you overdo it, again, we go back to that fish versus a big red California wine, right? Like, it might end up overpowering it.
Sure.
To give you an idea, last time I bought 4 pounds of tea, which was, I forget the exact measurements, but I think that works out to like 120. Lapsang Souchong. I'll write it out here.
Please, yeah.
Lapsang. So lap and then sang, as in you don't want me ever singing ever. So sang is the last thing. Lapsang, and then Su, SU. It should autocomplete. It's a smoked tea. Very, very approachable in terms of price. I think a pound is, an entry level one, right? Anywhere from like $10 to $15. That gets you probably like 30 or so cups. So out of those 4 pounds, we went through, I think, 2.5 pounds for about 70, 80 cups. And the retailer was kind of hesitant initially. He's like, tea, like no one's doing that, like all of these guys. And I'm like, nobody. I'm like, Habibi, I know what I'm doing. Like, just trust me. Like, he's like, we don't need extra cups. And I'm like, just let's see how it goes. What's the Texican court?
Performed you appear. Oh, well, Richard is, speaking of the Texican in May, is actually an event we go to called Texas Frightmare Weekend. And it is a horror convention. So that's kind of the base. But thanks to great gentlemen like Richard, cigars became quite a big part of it. We do a cigar night every time, and I think at the
Oh.
most we had about 50, maybe 60
60
people
people, yeah.
smoking cigars all at once, and a lot of them are learning in that experience. It is
Yeah, either they're first timers or they smoke a cigar once a year, and it's with us in Dallas.
so if we
In
can
Dallas.
steal you over there, heck yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'll see what I can do. I do have a commitment to visiting Texas another 2 times this year. So I'm actually going next week. I'm going next week for I'm going DFW area actually.
Oh,
So
no.
Dang it, yeah.
we're doing 3 events. One is in Longview, one is in Renegade Cigars in Richardson, and the third one, God, edit this out because if I can't remember, I have 9 events in the next 14 days.
That's impressive, by the
I'll
way.
post them shortly, but if the retailer that we're having that event on Friday sees this, Habibi, I'll bring you extra. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
My brain's just fried at this point. But yeah, I do aim to do about 80 events throughout the year. I think April will probably be Vegas, California, and Arizona most likely.
Very nice, very nice. And actually, you might run into Richard while you're out there in DFW area. That is where he is at. So you'll have at least one guy that we know is gonna treat you right out there. And
Richard,
I'm
if you're in
excited for you to come to
DFW,
California.
Renegade that's on the 7th or 8th, whatever Thursday is, not this week, but the following week. That's going to be at Renegade Cigars with Nate. Or if you're further out east towards Longview, that's going to be Tobacco Junction.
Nice, very nice.
And yeah, just say hi. But yeah, California, I'll probably do. I got to reach out to a couple of stores there. Probably Cigars Masfino. We're gonna have a little meeting in PCA.
Will that be their Fresno or their Bakersfield location?
I don't know actually. Probably the Bakersfield location. I might do both. That's not a big drive. I mean, I can fly into Fresno and then just drive down. That's not a
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, either way, it's like we can also do the same. We'll go bug you wherever you're at. Don't worry. That's gonna happen.
I'm excited. And then
And
on
as
420,
always-
I know I'm going to Ohlone in San Jose in Fremont.
Okay, very nice.
And I'm like, really? You're in the Bay Area and you opened the store on 420? He's like, we didn't plan it. That's when everything was done. I'm like, yeah.
Now, how far south do you plan on going?
I'm sorry?
How far south in California do you plan on going?
I mean, definitely Orange County. There's a big chunk of stores there. You know, Maximar being one of them. Embassy, Plume probably as well. So we'll see. We'll figure it out. And then LA proper. Again, I'll have a lot more clarity post PCA when we're gonna how we're going to do it. But yeah, the goal is to do about 80 events a year, which kind of brings me back to why I only want the 50 stores initially. It's not we're too cool for you to carry it. I just want to make sure that there's long-term alignment, right? We're all in it for the long term.
100%.
I want to build it right. I want to make sure that the 100 or so thousand cigars that are already made, ordered, I don't run out of stuff, because there's nothing more frustrating. And I speak of this as a consumer, not as someone who sells cigars. For me to fall in love with something and then have it be gone for months, because that kind of defeats the purpose. And more importantly, not only does it frustrate people, but I tend to forget about it. And I'm sure I'm not in the minority here either, right? Like, you just move to some other stuff. Like, I personally, I smoke Aganorsa Signature Gold, for example. The Corona Gorda is one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest cigars that are released in that 2018, 2019, whatever it was. Fantastic and stuff. I'm proud to say, and I've mentioned this, I love Terrence to death. I've mentioned it to him that I've personally bought 1% of the production from the initial run. They only made 500 boxes for the initial run, so I bought 5. That's fine.
Nice.
And again, they keep it in my local lounge specifically, basically for me and like 2 other people, because I'll buy 5, 6 at a time and just enjoy them on myself. And it's always the Corona Gordo.
Sure.
So that's a really good point though, because it's not that you wouldn't want, but if it's not there, the rotation has to continue either way.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep smoking cigars. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's so important to have them on hand.
Correct. And then the other thing is everything, and you can see it on the BDXs on the bottom of the boxes. Everything has when it was rolled, when it was boxed on each of the box. I haven't done that for Dominican Republic. Funnily enough, we didn't have the stamp there on the boxes, so that's fine. That's something that we'll figure out. But anytime you grab a cigar, you can expect that it's at least aged for 6 months or rested for 6 months. I don't like to use aging because it's not really baby giraffe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funnily
Somehow
enough, I
Terrence
think
gets taller every time I see him.
I know. I think I think it's 2020 when I ended up seeing Terrence in 5 different cities over like 3 weeks, just randomly, right? Like in random cigar lounges that I was doing events. So I finally come home and he walks into En Fuego in Vegas. And I'm like, Terrence, really? Like, how worried should I be?
So
Oh.
Jeff has a
Oh,
question
yeah.
here. How did you get along during the COVID years?
Fantastic. Yeah, I got zoomed out. I finally gotten over the zoomies last year, probably. But I remember one day in July, I ended up my first Zoom was something for the Middle East. I can't remember if it was Qatar or UAE, but one of those. It was early morning, so it was like 7-8 o'clock our time, right? PST.
Yeah.
It was a Wednesday. I remember that because Reinhard, who hosts Light 'em Up, then I joined Light 'em Up, and it was Ian from Dapper, who I absolutely love. So he was doing a show. Then Maximar was doing their show. Then someone else did a follow-up show, and then I did another one for the Middle East. That basically from like 8:30 in the morning to like 1 a.m. in the morning, all I did was just Zoom. My eyes were just out of it, and I was like, no more Zooms. But COVID was again, right? Everything shut down, and it was a weird period for about a month. And then I've cleaned out my entire inventory in probably 3-4 weeks.
Not bad.
That was really, and that was probably, I don't remember the numbers, but I know it was more than 50,000 cigars in that like 3 or 4 weeks period. That was just insane. It was like I was giving them away. And I've tried to figure out, right? Obviously, like we were all stuck at home, like nobody was spending money, going out to restaurants, travel, et cetera, right? So a lot more disposable income. But one of the retailers that I spoke to, and again, anecdotal, he goes, we have one guy, this is their 10th year anniversary. So this was what, 6 or 7 years in, right? If we go back 4 years. So he goes, look, the guy was the second person to ever walk through the store's doors. He comes out every Thursday, smokes one cigar between 6 and 8, and then goes home for 6 years. COVID hits. The guy starts buying boxes upon boxes of everything under the sun. So the guy goes, did you, what's going on here? Did you hit the lottery? Like, or, what's happening? He goes, look, man, for the past 6 years, right? Like I have a kid, I have 2 kids, I have a wife, I work 9 to 5. Like I have one day a week where I can go and enjoy a cigar on my own. And that's typically a Thursday. I hold that, it's almost like a religious level where it's like, they know every Thursday he's going to be there. So basically he goes, now I have a chance. I always wanted to enjoy more cigars. I just didn't have the time. And guess what? I'm working from home now. I can sit on my porch and enjoy cigars, and I'm probably going to stay remote. So that alone just increased it, right? There's a ton of people who want to enjoy cigars, but they can't, right? Like you can't smoke indoors unless you're in a lounge. So the fact you can sit on a patio, work from home, and like enjoy a cigar is incredible. The liquor industry experienced something similar, which was a lot more of an interesting COVID study than the cigar side. So, right, with everything shut down, they've experienced a shortage because basically people, right? Think of a restaurant. You go in there and let's say you have 2 drinks. You're having 2 shots. But guess what? You can't really go to a restaurant anymore. So you hit your local liquor store, but you can't really buy 2 shots. So you're buying bottles.
Yeah.
Well, if you put it in restaurant terms, you just consumed, 12 to 15 shots, depending on, how generous of a pour it is. So all of a sudden it just gets completely amplified. Plus it's lower cost than drinking in a restaurant, right? Like your 2 shots in a restaurant probably covers whatever bottle you're buying, or maybe I'm basing it on Vegas pricing, but let's call it
pretty accurate though. Yeah.
right. Like that covers most of it. So all of a sudden, not only is it cheaper, but you can enjoy a lot more of it and you can drink it over time. So it just,
True.
it looked like people were drinking 5 times as much.
And not to malign, our good buddies in the alcohol industry, but I'd rather people drink, or rather people smoke more alone at home than drink more alone at home, just for safety reasons, and just cause I might be biased on that, but
no, absolutely,
that's a great point.
I was gonna say, I was gonna bring that up because, again, right during all those Zoom especially, I figured out that during that day I polished off almost a full bottle, which I don't drink alone. Like I just don't. It's always a social experience.
Yeah.
And I have because I drive most of the times, like never more than 2 drinks in a 3-hour period. Like that's a hard and fast rule. So if you ever see me, like you'll see me in Vegas, and again, I live in town. I might have a cocktail to start while we're all kind of chilling and having fun there. Maybe one more between, that 7-8 o'clock when everybody meets at the Circle Bar until we leave. But apart from that, all I'm drinking is sodas, or not soda, sorry, sparkling water.
Sparkling water, yeah.
So it's a very, it's from a safety perspective.
Plus, and just Vegas. A smart perspective right there, because I remember I'm pretty sure that me and Boston Jimmy were talking conspiracy theories at the bar for quite a while. There might have been alcohol involved. So a definitely smarter move.
What were the conspiracy theories? Now I need to know.
Oh gosh, I gotta ask him next time I see him, because that night was a great night. I will say that. I remember it being a very fun night. Conversation wise, I don't have the cliff notes readily available because I should have followed your lead. I definitely, that was one of those nights where, yeah, I can have one. I can have one more. Okay, I can have one more. And all of a sudden, I'm pretty sure it must have been Illuminati or something. But either way, I'm gonna follow your lead. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I'm gonna wrap that one for a second.
It's just a plus, like with if you have cash on you, it's just, yeah, yeah, let's throw in a couple $100 into the slot machine.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh man, that's a story for another day too. Never mind. I can't bring. That's not my story. So as soon as you said that, someone else popped into my head, but I won't share her another day. But you know what? We are going to wrap. We're over the hour, about an hour and 10 right now. But before I let you go, I do want to make sure. Is there anything that you want to make sure that these good people know about Somm?
Yeah. So I only use my personal profile for social media. I post most of the educational stuff. I'm in Instagram jail right now and you guys will appreciate this. On one of the educational videos, when it came down to cutting cigars, I mentioned bullet instead of, because it was a spent bullet, right? Just a casing that you can use as a punch cut. So I said the word bullet in the video and it got flagged immediately. So if you slow down the video enough that I posted afterwards, you can actually see where I spliced in, where I say I spent casing, and that made it fly easily. And then I think 2 days later, that was, maybe actually my 27th. Yeah, I think I'm actually out of Instagram jail tomorrow. I posted a picture of the Bordeaux box and said, okay, well, happy about the Corona Gorda edition coming to TPE. That got flagged for tobacco sales. So I did a post in it, and it got a reach of 3 people. So over like 4 days, and I'm like, okay, not posting anything, but there's a educational portion coming up that's going to focus on tasting 5 to 8 part videos, no longer than a minute. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more, that's it. Or wait, what happened? Maybe I'll save this for Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. cigar show.
Oh, Jeff, that is the other way around, guys. During COVID, I was doing the Great American Morning Show at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday because I was bored and going out of my mind, and no one else would wake up that early, around certain people or family. So I was sitting by myself, just going. I've never been out of work that long where I wasn't doing something. You guys saved me. It's 100% the other way around, and I will bring it back soon. With my schedule right now, it's gonna be even earlier. It'll probably be like 6:30 to like 7:15 ish. Keep 45 minutes, but it will come back soon. Especially with the weather getting better, and got my new dog with me, so I have someone to sit and talk with if no one watches. But either way, guys, it'll come back sooner or later. And well, I'm gonna have to bug you to get up early one of these days and do it.
Bug me. I get up at 5:30 every morning.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, because
Yeah.
that's about my time right now too.
As
Yeah,
long
heck
as you
yeah.
guys are okay with me drinking coffee that early, I'm in.
That was half the show right there, brother. Yes, all right, boom, locked
Perfect.
in. I love it.
Done.
Yes. Okay, good, because he's not gonna.
Yeah,
do it.
just reach out on social media. I'm the I'll be the one responding, and then hopefully we can meet each other in person. I really think that in person, in a more and more remote world, I think the in-person stuff is really, really important.
Could not agree more. I mean, I do love doing the shows like this, but I can't wait to see you in person, smoking cigars together. Gonna try that too for sure.
Yeah,
I am excited.
I might actually have one left, so you guys can. I'll throw it in the middle, and they can bet on it. Middle of the show floor.
Fantastic.
I'm down for that, 100%.
I want to thank you for taking your time and being with us. Thank everybody else for watching.
Thank you. Yes.
Can't wait to see you in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming quick.
weeks.
Oh, actually, let me throw this one. How about this? I'll throw a hat and a lighter for. I want you guys. So this is a dual flame lighter. I'll throw a hat and a lighter for you guys. Pick one of the comments at random. Once the show's posted, and take these guys into account. So whoever, and I might throw something else in there, but
Awesome.
we'll throw a little bit of swag your way.
How about this? I will collect everyone's name, and you'll all get thrown onto a randomized wheel. How about that? So everyone who commented will have a chance.
Look at Richard throwing extra comments just in case.
Just a couple extra.
Yeah.
Tom checking in over on YouTube. Thank you. You will be counted as well, brother. Don't worry. That is perfect. And then the site again, sommcigars.com. Yes.
Somm Cigars, SOMM, so short for sommelier, and sommcigars.com. You can see my little mug there with some of the blends as well.
Yeah, I love
Fantastic. All right, we'll let you get going. Thank you guys again. And I want to thank our sponsors, Apostate Cigars, Artista Cigars, Ikimomo Cigars, Artisanal del Tobacco, Family by Loyalty, and
oh my gosh, GTO Cigars,
Cigars.
Sinistro, just to throw them on there.
Yeah.
All right. So Frank, you did well. You did
pretty
well.
good.
Yeah.
I did pretty good. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on Thursday. But Thursday will be a little bit later because we have to go pick up some siblings from school and then bring them back to town.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
All right, brother. See you soon.
Thanks again. Have a great night. See you at PCA in a month.
Yes.
Have a good one, guys.